Hello, everyone. We are going to be talking about a very exciting topic today, and that is how to run Etsy ads in a profitable way. This is something that I don't see a lot of information about on YouTube, online. Trying to find videos about this is really tricky, and sometimes the videos that I personally find really confusing. So I'm really excited today to have Hannah with me because she is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Etsy ads, making sure that they're profitable, and making them a lot more fun. So you're making more money in your business, explaining them in a simple way. I've reached out to Hannah a couple times on specific metrics, and she always breaks it down to me on the kindergarten level that I need when it comes to some of the metrics. So greatly appreciate that. But before we dive in, Hannah, I would love for you to introduce yourself, and for anybody in my audience who might not have seen your face before, a little bit about your history with e-commerce.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Hannah. I'm a fellow Etsy YouTuber, Etsy store owner. I actually sell physical goods. So I've had two brands in the past. I still run one brand, and they're physical goods, but a lot of the same really all the same strategies and rules apply when it comes to running your ads, when it's physical goods or print on demand goods. It's just some of the thresholds changed a little bit, but we'll talk about all of that. But yeah, I've been selling on Etsy since 2019 and just documenting that journey on YouTube, much like Taylor. And yeah, just sharing all my wins and all my losses, all the crazy things that have happened in the last 5 years, because we know entrepreneurship isn't always just this perfect line to the success gods or whatever. But yeah, basically that's what I've been doing. And, now we are, continuing to share basically all the things, as well as trying to scale our businesses in real time and document and showing that now in this new era post COVID, all of the things, trying to keep everything up to date for everybody.
Yeah, I know. I love that. And I remember prior to me actually starting my channel, of course, I loved consuming content. And I believe you've had quite the experience even with Etsy and having shops shut down and getting them back and all kinds of things that I'm sure many who are listening can relate to and have dealt with as well. So I'm really excited to have you on. I love just in general having a guest on my channel because I am somebody who doesn't believe that print on demand is not a one size fits all. E-commerce is not a one size fits all. And when I was starting my journey, I loved watching so many success stories and so many different people because they all had such a different path. And it's not that one was right and one was wrong, but I was able to kind of like pick through and find things like, oh, I want to try this or I want to try that. And some of them worked and some of them didn't. And then some of them I kind of had a new strategy born from me trial and error and just trying to figure it out as I go. So I think that it's so valuable for anybody to be able to hear different stories. And I'm really excited to have you on for that reason. So
No.
with that being said, you've sold physical products. How, when you're going about your physical products, and I know that this strategy relates very similar to print on demand products as well, but how would you determine your pricing and to make sure that you're running at a profitable price before launching the products in your shops?
Yes, good question. And first of all, I just want to say I completely agree with you. I think that I just had Simply Sean on my channel, I get golden nuggets. We are only one singular data sample. And so it's good, exactly like you said, to listen to everyone. And that's how you elevate together is by collaborating together is how I truly think the biggest growth I've also had is by doing stuff like this. Okay, so that was that. But in terms of pricing, you just said it so eloquently, so good. I like that.
Oh,
and so when it comes to pricing, what my strategy specifically is I want to think about, okay, what is the actual effort and what is winning for me on the offshoot of that effort of the profit that I want to make, right? So for me, selling physical goods, where there is a lot of effort that goes into the logistics of getting the raw materials, turning those raw materials into a finished product, paying seamstresses and inventory management and all that stuff, right? It's a lot different than the POD realm where you don't have to touch a product. And so when you're thinking in terms of profit, I always, being a handmade person, it's like, I want to clear an X amount of profit because otherwise it would not be worth my effort and my time and energy. So for us, we like to clear after all expenses, like after marketing, fees, product costs, all the stuff. We want to be clearing, like for us, our health is clearing at least a 20% profit percentage after all costs, right? For you, maybe you want to clear, a 30% or at least a 25%, right? And then you build your business model and your pricing model around that. And it's kind of hard in the beginning because there's a huge cost percentage that you don't know when you go to market for the first time, which is this huge variable expense, which is your marketing cost percentage. But we'll talk more about that and, how to get that down, at month over month and stuff like that. But ultimately, you want to build a pricing strategy that makes sense and there's room for that variable expense. And then, it then becomes this game of tweaking the dials of all the pieces of your pie to increase that profit percentage pie and, decrease, all the other expenses in a way over time. And it's not always perfect the first time, you go to market. And it's something that you're constantly trying to improve over time. But that's basically how we are determining our pricing, right? What is winning for us at the end of the month? How much profit do we want to see? I would say 20% in business is pretty standard. My first company, we ran really high profit margin percentage. Like I didn't even realize how good it was until I had perspective of like what other businesses have. And that one was running like a 36% profit margin percentage, which was, so hopefully anyone watching this gives you some perspective, because sometimes I talk to students and they're like, they think it's bad. I'm like, you're clearing a 50% profit margin percentage after your marketing. Like that's insane. Like that doesn't happen with physical businesses or, like at least not online businesses. Like if you're running, like you talked before this, a brick and mortar, like it's really hard to hit those margins, after all your expenses and stuff. So that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, no, that's such a good way of putting it. And I love the perspective of, so you had physical products, which required a lot of physical work to make because they weren't being fulfilled by somebody else. And I think that that's something that kind of gets lost in the world of print on demand because we aren't doing the labor or we're not really, like directly hiring somebody to do the labor, but in a sense we're using our print provider to do that labor for us. And so there are lower profit margins, but what you said about 30%, that's been my experience. And I find that to be kind of a good standard across print on demand is to at least aim for about 30%. And there's tons of great like online calculators. You can Google Etsy profit calculators and you can find things of that nature just to kind of get yourself set up in a quick way. But also I want to call out, you mentioned about brick and mortar businesses, and there's, I think when I Googled it before, it talks about just a standard business owner and how likely they are to even be profitable at all in their first year. And I think that gives a lot of really good perspective because what you'll see if you go after watching this video and you Google how long it takes for a business owner to typically be profitable, I think it takes about on average like 2 to 3 even plus years. But with print on demand or really a lot of e-commerce businesses, you can often be profitable as soon as you start making sales if you're set up in the right way. So I think that that's a really cool opportunity about this business model. This is kind of a little bit of a tangent. I haven't shared a lot about this on my channel before actually, but my previous 9 to 5 corporate job, I worked in franchising. And so I helped franchise owners across my region open new locations, develop their and scale their current locations. And a lot of them had to put a lot of money, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get their storefront going. And they definitely didn't see a return on that investment for several years. So
100%. That's my mom as well. So my mom has hair salons and
yeah.
she was like, if you make money in the first 3 years, like you're lucky, but like you said, like in the online landscape, like that's not technically the case, or it could be within a year, honestly, So.
Yeah, no, and it's I think it's just there's this rush when you see so many success stories and things like that. You just want to experience that. And so naturally, I think just sometimes our expectations become, all right, when am I gonna get a little bit of that piece of pie of profitability? But
Yep,
now,
I'm guilty of that.
yeah, I think we all are. I think it's just like a natural human
Yep.
desire, especially people who are in this space. They're very driven and very hardworking typically, and just are going to do whatever it takes to get there. So another thing that I wanted to ask you about is, I know that in Etsy, and I experienced this myself actually, after last year, my first full year selling on Etsy. A lot of times when you are looking at your stats, just your general store stats, and you're looking at your revenue, and you can see your conversion rate and views and visits and just a couple little key metrics that they share with you as a seller, I noticed that sometimes those numbers don't always reflect what I found in my W-9 from Etsy, showing all my revenue so I could, do my taxes properly and things like that. Could you touch on why there's a difference? Because I think that's important in thinking about profitability and thinking
Mhm.
about, what those numbers mean and where they're coming from.
Yeah, Etsy's analytics is a little bit misleading and confusing at times because in different areas in your account, you might see revenue in one area and it's calculated, before shipping and taxes. And then you go into another area and it's including shipping and taxes. And you're like, I don't know, like what I look at, but you definitely 100% would not want to rely on those numbers in terms of your reporting for your own taxes, like for your taxes. If you are going to do anything, you have something called a ledger or a reports system, and it's kind of a nightmare. But I mean, those reports, like even if you go into your finance and your account tab, you have a ledger, and that ledger, when you download those reports, are actually what's true to what's hitting your account. And so, with our software profit tree, which, I'm sure maybe we talk about later or whatever, but it's the first real-time profit tracking solution for Etsy sellers. Essentially, that's what we pull from. So we pull every single line item from your account ledger, which is exactly how it's being billed, when it's being billed, and that's what we show inside of Profit Tree. Now, Profit Tree is not going to solve all your tax issues as of now, but we try to keep it as truthful in terms of numbers. And we don't, we're not scraping information from like your dashboard, right? It comes directly from those ledgers. So we basically took that ledger and we are sorting it in Profit Tree for you. So even what you see in Profit Tree is not going to match what you see in Etsy, because on, your dashboard in Etsy, they're going to calculate it one way, and then you're going to go into your stats and they're going to calculate your net sales in another way. And then you're going to go into your ads and then it's going to show you revenue, and all that's going to be calculated in a completely different way. So why is Etsy like that? I don't know. I mean, in general, the rule of thumb, like if you're selling on Amazon, it's the same thing with like your Amazon stats. These third-party selling platforms, they're going to not lie, like they're not making up numbers, but they're going to always kind of manipulate the data in a way that makes it feel good, to make it seem like the seller is winning. And that's why you never really want to rely on your third-party selling platform for your stats. Like, the biggest sellers on Amazon always have a different unbiased party showing them their stats basically and calculating it in a more meaningful way. If that answers your questions. But it's not like that, they're lying to, it's just they're going to make it seem like what they want to seem like. They're not really, thinking in terms of like the seller, like, I guess you could say.
No, that definitely makes sense. And for anybody who's listening, so Hannah just mentioned Profit Tree. And if you've never heard of Profit Tree, if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably heard of Profit Tree, because I have been sharing every now and then. I'll share a little screenshot of my sales and what the profit looked like, and just kind of talk about the breakdown. And I always get comments saying, is this Etsy? What is this? Where are you getting these numbers from? Because it's just such interesting data, and it puts it all kind of for you at a glance. And Hannah is the creator of Profit Tree, and it is such a cool tool. So that's what she was referring to, if anybody hasn't heard of it before. And we're gonna dive into that a little bit, because I think it's something that you'll be able to really learn a lot from. But before we dive into Profit Tree specifically, I definitely want to take a look at a couple things in there with you, Hannah.
Mm.
I want to talk a little bit more about Etsy ads now. So I feel like we've kind of laid out, all right, pricing, profitability, what these numbers are painting a picture for us. If we're running Etsy ads, and let me backtrack a little bit. When it comes to Etsy ads, how have they been something that's been
Mm.
pivotal for you in your business? And have you had a specific strategy with them?
Yeah, so I claim to fame, like my claim to fame, not fame, I'm not famous. That was not the right language, but anyway, I attribute a lot of my success with my first company to Etsy ads. I entered one of the most competitive niches at the time. You know, print on demand was very much in its infancy. I didn't even know that it was a thing. It was a thing, but I was so wrapped into my own world that I didn't realize how much it was a thing. Wish I got into it back then, but I didn't. And so at the time, fast fashion jewelry was the thing. Like that was the most competitive thing. That's the space I entered. And yeah, Etsy ads, let's just put it this way, like without maxing out my Etsy ad budget, my $100,000 months probably would have been like $20,000 months, right? It puts that much fuel under the fire and that much momentum under listings that are like, you know, really hot and best-selling products. It could make them viral, right? It will make something that normally wouldn't perform, and then all of a sudden it starts to perform because it takes into the algorithm properly. So just that snowball effect of not only making more revenue, but making more profit is, you know, at least going to double, if not triple, if not quadruple, if you do it properly. But also it just, you know, if you're in a race and you're competing, like whether people know it or not, like, and when you're selling on a third-party platform or even on TikTok or whatever, you know, you are competing, right? Any business, you have competitors, right? And so if you're getting reviews faster, you're getting more clicks than your competition, you're getting more sales, right? You're getting more add to carts, right? That snowball effect of what happens in your Etsy shop not only hits faster, but it's also making you more competitive because you're getting more social proof, more reviews, more organic indexing. And it contributes to the organic growth of your listing as well and your shop as well. And this is true also for Amazon PPC. If Amazon, the way that they charge you is also something called pay per click. It's the same sort of model, right? The difference between Amazon and Etsy is Amazon will actually show you your rank, whereas Etsy is very cryptic and they are not going to say you're ranked on page 1, position 1, right? Like in different IP addresses, you know, you might be on page 1 here, you might be on page 5 in this different place. But the collective is that as you get more reviews and organic indexing, the frequency of which you start showing up on the first pages becomes more likely when you not only have the most competitive products, but you're putting your hand up saying that you're willing to outbid, you know, Joe Schmo down the street, essentially. So yeah, I contribute that growth of that first brand in the most competitive niche to Etsy ads, you know, because I just don't see it any other way. And this was like pre-COVID as well, that it was like going so crazy. So yeah, I think Etsy ads are not everything to your success. Obviously, there's a lot of things that have to happen first in terms of you understanding what a winning listing is, how to make a competitive listing, do some SEO. But then it's definitely what comes sooner than later in terms of scaling you to your max potential, right? And making more profit.
I couldn't agree more. And something that I've shared on my channel is that a lot of times Etsy ads kind of get a bad rep because people kind of go in with this false expectation of, I'm going to turn on Etsy ads and that is going to bring me more sales. And that isn't necessarily always the best strategy, and just kind of turning them on blindly. And so something that I've shared on my channel, and I'm curious to if this has been part of your strategy and if you agree, or even if you disagree, it's okay too. But I've always said that Etsy ads originally should be turned on more so for data rather than profit. And getting sales and getting profit from them is kind of like a byproduct of what you do with the data. But turning them on and not observing what's happening within them is probably the worst thing that you can do. And I think what most people are doing, which is why they aren't profitable, and then they hate Etsy ads. And that's just the, you
Yep.
know, verbiage surrounding them. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's almost like this like counterintuitive thing. It's like in order to go forward, you have to go backwards. So you have to almost like sometimes I'll even say go negative to then go up, right? But this is true for like, you know, anything with business. Like you gave the example, like people invest hundreds of thousands of dollars before they see a dollar back. And it's kind of the same idea with Etsy ads. You need to collect that data to then be able to make a decision and then tweak the dials to go, you know, more profitable. So yeah, I completely agree with that psychology. It's definitely that. It's definitely not a set and forget thing, but it's also not a micromanage every single day type of thing. I would argue, you know what I mean? Because that micromanaging gets you emotional. And even like, our, Dave from Add to Cart, I don't know if anyone knows him here, but he used to have a YouTube channel. He still does, but he doesn't really post. But he's the one that taught me Etsy ads back in like 2019 or whatever. And yeah, it's his same logic, right? It's very much like, it's not set and forget, but it's also not micromanage. But you need to collect that data to go backwards to then go forwards. And you just have to keep your eye on like the bigger picture at play. What is the bigger winning here? And that is, more sales and more profit, right? There's no other way that you can scale on Etsy specifically, other than launching more products to sell and getting your ads to the max budget allowance, right? Other than that, you can't get more traffic because you're maxed out to the potential of traffic that exists in the platform. And if you're doing influencer marketing, and this is my also opinion, I don't know what your opinion is, but like, if you're someone that's so good at influencer marketing or making content on social media, I would not drive that traffic to an Etsy shop to then pay an Etsy fee, right? Like you're paying Etsy that 6.5% selling fee for Etsy to solve a problem for you. And that problem is called traffic, right? And so the cheapest cost per acquisition to get traffic is organic or utilizing their ads, right? And the ads are so cheap in a sense compared to other ads options out there is because people go to Etsy with their wallet open with the intention of purchasing something, right? People don't go to Instagram, with the intention of purchasing something, and so that's why you see these low cost per acquisitions are lower compared to your other options. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That completely makes sense. And I agree. And honestly, I might even be more extreme in that belief. And I've even had friends or family say, "Oh, send me your shop, send me your Etsy shop." I'm like, "You're not my customer. So no,
Yeah.
there's no need for your eyeballs on my."
Right.
And so, it's like, if you want something, just let me know and we'll take care of that separate for one. And for two is just, the great thing about Etsy is it's an organic traffic machine.
Right.
And that's really the benefit of having a shop on Etsy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So with Etsy ads, they definitely can be a great tool when used properly. I feel like that is the big takeaway for everybody who's listening. How do we make sure that our ads are profitable? I know a lot of people look at their return on ad spend or their ROAS, and there's sometimes some ballpark numbers that get thrown around of, make sure it's over 2, make sure it's over 3, but sometimes I'm even confused. I'm like, wait, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is that 2? What is that 3? And it's something that I think a lot of people, it's hard to master something if you can't explain it yourself, if that makes sense. Like, it's like kind of like a teacher thing, it's like, all right, in order to master the exam, in a sense, you have to be able to reteach the subject. And I feel like it's one that most people, they couldn't tell you why they're looking for a certain number with their return on ad spend, but they just like heard it somewhere before. So
Yeah.
I'm curious if you could kind of explain that a little bit. And I know Profit Tree has some good tools within it to kind of break down that data. I don't know if you want to share your screen or anything.
Yes,
That
for
would be
sure.
super cool.
Okay, cool. Yes, we definitely can do that. And first of all, like if you're watching this, like you just said it perfectly. Like it's kind of like people get overwhelmed because they don't even know what they're supposed to be looking at. And I too, like how I would run my Etsy ads in the beginning, like when I first started to how I run my ads now has morphed and changed to, what I've learned over the years. And to sum it all down to one thing, what the only thing that matters when it comes to running your Etsy ads, right? Because even the Etsy ads reporting system, like if you go into your analytics, like they're really not giving you one piece of valuable information in there except for your spend, honestly. And it will make more sense here in a second. But essentially the only thing that really matters is, am I making profit after my ad spend? And is that profit the profit that is healthy to my standards? So we opened up this call with you asking me, how do I determine my pricing? Well, my pricing is determined based off the amount of profit that I want to make, right? It's a balance. It's not just what I want to make, but it's also what the market. It's also based off the market. Like I have to be priced per the market as well. But when I'm, sourcing materials, all that stuff, crunching my numbers, right? I'm going to, make it to the point where this is the health profit that I want to see after my investment in marketing. So let me just share my screen here and I can help break this down a little bit. Okay, so profit tree, first of all, is going to show you your profit after all your expenses. So after your product costs, your operating expenses, all of the things here, right? And then you have this ad cost percentage here, right? And so in, for this time period, right, we're seeing a 24% profit, which is health. Like that is health for the 7-day period, which isn't a big data sample of time, right? So that means that even at a 17% ad cost percentage, we're still technically within the realm of our health, of what we want to see after all fees, all costs, etc. And the thing when it comes to your ads, when it comes to determining your ad cost percentage that is healthy for your shop, right? It's based off of the thresholds that you set. And so that is the big thing. It's what is the profit that you want to make? And if you don't want your ad cost percentage to go over 17%, because that is going to kill that health of your profit, that is what determines how strict you're going to be when it comes to turning off your ads, which ads you're going to keep on or off. So right now, Profit Tree is getting you about half the way there and determining some numbers, right? So in order to get a metric, it's called tacos, and it's the total advertising cost of a sale, right? Basically, you have what I just showed you, that 17% is your tacos on your shop level, right? Your ad cost percentage, right? And it's your ad cost percentage compared to top line sales, your net sales. And why do we care about ad cost percentage compared to top line sales? Is because remember, when you're investing in ads, it's contributing to the organic growth of that listing as well, in your shop as well, right? And people argue with me on this one as well, but you can actually prove this to yourself, because if you go into your Etsy account and you go into a listing and you go look at the stats in that listing, you're going to see a similar pie chart to this, but it's going to show you your traffic sources. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Yeah, no. And
Yep.
I can add to this as well. I have the students in my mentorship group, they probably are sick of me talking about Etsy ads. I'm very passionate about it. And I talk about it quite often, and just how beneficial that they are. And those who have overcome the mindset of, okay, I'm ready to dive into these. I've kind of eliminated some of those limiting beliefs and fears that I have associated with them. A lot of the students that start running ads, they start seeing their organic sales and organic traffic increase. And it's not a coincidence. It is because they're seeing more interaction on their listings. The ad is seeing clicks, it's seeing favorites, and it's seeing sales. And Etsy wants to keep people on their platform and spending money on their platform. So it only makes sense that they're going to show that listing to more people like that original customer and get you more organic sales, which then is even more profitable for you.
Yeah. And it's like this snowball effect, right? Because it's also, you have word of mouth sales, you have repeat buyers, right? So e-commerce is like this slow, painful thing in the beginning, and then it starts going faster and faster as your name and your brand starts expanding, right? That's kind of how it is. And that again, the ads, like exactly like you said, it contributes to that snowball effect happening faster and faster and faster. And to prove it, right, it's like you can go into your Etsy stats and you basically have a pie chart like this in your stats, and it shows you on one side, it shows you your traffic sources. And in the beginning, what you might see is like, if you have Etsy ads on for a listing, is that your traffic source comes majority from your ad clicks. But if that listing performs well, and you keep it on with Etsy ads because it makes sense, right? What you'll see is that Etsy ads traffic pie piece will start shrinking, and the organic will start outgrowing the Etsy ad one. So you actually see it shrink, and that's what happens behind a listing that's healthy with Etsy ads on. That makes sense with Etsy ads on, right? It will be big in the beginning, and then the organic will actually overtake the paid, because you'll start being shown on the first page more frequently organically as well. And so anyone that argues with me on this, I'm like, it's the same thing. It's the same idea for Amazon PPC, right? But it's pay to play. Like, you pay to get there. You pay to get there. So, and the idea is that you're making more profit, not just revenue. Otherwise, what would be the point, right? What would be the point of this whole conversation? And so yeah, basically the biggest metric that we care about, again, is profit, right? So are we clearing a healthy profit after our ad costs? An ad cost percentage in the marketing world is called tacos, the total advertising cost of a sale. So it's what you spent compared to your top line sales. So in the listing report here, we're getting you about half the way here. So I can sort this by the most profitable, right? And so we have a metric here that's an important metric, and this is what's getting you half the way here, which is called your ad cost percentage, right? And your ad cost, this is your profit percentage before marketing. So this listing is clearing a 47% profit before a marketing cost percentage, tacos, right? So right, and so this is after all my COGS, after all my fees, right? So 47%, that's giving me a lot of room to play. So if I want to clear a 20% profit, or maybe you're strict, you want to clear a 30% profit, that means that my tacos cannot exceed 17%. And so the ideal situation with Profit Tree is that all in one page, you can see your profit before marketing and you can see your profit percentage after marketing. And if that's the only determiner of if you're turning a listing on or off, if it's healthy with ads on after top line sales, then we're going to keep that listing on. And if it's not, then we're going to turn it off. And it's even more important to look at ones that are like, let's go to a bigger time period here. Like you said earlier in this video, listings have life cycles, right? And so we would want to pay more attention to listings that are on a downward trend compared to the previous time period, because obviously those ones might be going out, like they're going outdated, right? So like here's one that's, still performing pretty well, but you can see compared to the previous year, it's down 30%. So maybe, our tacos is increasing because it's becoming harder to convert somebody, which means that we would want to pay more attention to the listings that are, essentially it's becoming more expensive to acquire a customer. So the profit percentage before marketing is half the battle here. But we have just launched a Chrome extension where you can see all my million Chrome extensions, where essentially what will happen, the first version of this is that you could download a CSV for the same time period selected. So, you could go last 30 days, you would download the CSV, and then we'll be able to show you your tacos for the last 30 days on your listings, basically, and your profit after your costs, your ad spend, all that stuff. Right. Are you following me, or am I jumping
Yeah,
around?
no. That makes complete sense. The only thing that I was going to say too is I'm glad that you kind of mentioned like time and just like longer durations of time, because I just think time is so important when it comes to actually determining if your listings are successful or not. And so many times, especially when it comes to Etsy ads, we get really emotional in our decision making when it comes to our Etsy ads, and sometimes they need time. And I know that sounds so scary sometimes for individuals, but I think what you're showing here gives a lot of confidence behind that, because it's not just a wondering, okay, is this listing, just eating money? Am I throwing money in a dumpster and setting it on fire? Or am I, maybe just break even or starting to see a little bit of growth? I think that it can be really reassuring so that those emotional decisions aren't so emotional, and they have data behind them.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, one thing that you had mentioned earlier that you really liked was like the break-even ROAS, right? So, and now, even in the past, like I would heavily look at the ROAS inside of, in the Etsy analytics. It's actually something that I would teach in the past. Like I would look at the ROAS a lot, because if the ROAS wasn't at my break-even point, by the way, guys, if you don't know what break-even ROAS is, we calculate your break-even ROAS, which is, it says here, the ratio of revenue per advertising dollar to cover your ad cost. So it's like, if you give Etsy ads $1 and it gives you back $2, that doesn't mean that you maybe made money, because you had costs associated with that sale. So it's what ROAS, return on ad spend, you need to see in order to break even. So I would come in here initially and I would look at my break-even ROAS, and I would compare that to the ROAS that Etsy gives us. But even that is not super valuable, because that ROAS is only the ROAS that they show you in Etsy is basically your return on ad spend 1-to-1. So what the ad generated you, where really holistically, we want to look at the holistic health of the listing. And it really comes down to that tacos metric, because your ROAS a lot of times in Etsy ads always looks bad, especially for low margin spaces or low ticket spaces. But then when you actually look and you look at your top line sales compared to tacos, you're like, oh wait, the health of this listing is actually really makes mega sense after you factor in, top line compared to spend versus, product cost, whatever. And you actually don't want to turn it off. And then we're like turning things off that actually should be kept on. But again, like the only thing that really matters is is the profit healthy after the spend, essentially. And so, yeah, I mean, the goal again is like our Chrome extension eventually will show you everything, but even with your marketing cost percentage and on the listing level, it's getting you closer to the goal, basically, in terms of managing your ads.
No,
But
this
yeah.
is seriously so helpful. Thank you so much for sharing your screen and showing all of that, because I feel like I almost want to, I had a vision for this video and what we would talk about and things that I just think would help a lot of individuals who are interested in running ads and, making sure that they're profitable and doing it the quote unquote right way and whatnot. I feel like this was like a master class though. I feel like there was so much information, and if you're watching this, bookmark it, rewatch it, because I think it's something that you're going to be able to come back to, and you're probably going to get a little bit more out of it every single time you do, because there was a lot.
There was a lot.
Yeah, that was, but so good, so valuable, not like a overwhelming a lot, like, oh my gosh, I just want to soak all of this in a lot. I'm going to rewatch it.
Hopefully it wasn't too technical, but I mean, the moral of the story is, what did you spend?
Yeah.
What did you make on top line? That's literally it. And what is that what is that profit? And hopefully we make it a little bit easier for people, over time. And, everyone kind of has their own thing, their own way of teaching, and they're technically not wrong. Cause like you said, it's like, it's what works for you at the end of the day. But I think now, at least in my world, I'm like, I've figured it out. Like, this is it. This is the only way that, in my mind, like everyone should be doing it. That's what, like, my boyfriend's on Amazon, and that's what they do. That's all they care about, is tacos, basically. And it's not like anyone's crazy. It's just Etsy makes it really, really freaking difficult for you to figure it out. Like, even in your stats, like, you have to like if you go to your stats for your listing, you have to click through like 100 listings to find your net sales on an individual listing for a time period selected. You can't search a listing, so we're trying to make it, we're almost there. We're almost there to making it a perfect process for people. So
yeah, no, I think it's super valuable, and it just makes me laugh every time that Hannah said the word tacos. I feel like I was smiling and I was laughing because, but prior to this call, before we started recording, she was telling me a little bit about that metric, because I was very curious and I had to ask her, are you saying tacos? Like a taco that you would eat? So I'll do a little call to action here. If you have made it to this point in the video, put a taco emoji in the comments down below. I think that would be super funny. But with that being said, Hannah has been super kind to provide us with an exclusive discount link for Profit Tree. So if you are interested in trying out Profit Tree, you can get lifetime access. This is something that is an incredible deal, and it's not something that can last forever. Lifetime access. So with that being said, if you're watching this and the link is available in the description for you to gain lifetime access to Profit Tree, be sure to take advantage of it. If you're watching this in the future and it's no longer there, I'm sure there will still be a link that you can get signed up for Profit Tree. But unfortunately, maybe at that point, that lifetime deal is no longer available. But thank you, Hannah, for providing that, because I've learned in my entrepreneurship journey that I have to buy so many softwares and subscriptions, and there's a lot that I've just started kind of like paying yearly for to save the money. And when there's a lifetime deal, and I always look out on Black Friday for certain deals for certain softwares that I just love using in my business, because they'll offer sometimes deals like that. And I think there's such great opportunities. So thank you for that, because it is such a saver long term. And
yeah.
I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of those who are going to take advantage of it.
Well, thank you. Yes. I mean, that this is actually the first time we haven't even announced. Well, you announced it. Like, so yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's we're trying to just make it like as accessible as possible, even for people that, that aren't, making a bajillion dollars yet or whatever their goals are, so yeah.
Hannah, thank you so much. If anybody who's watching wants more of you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can just find me on YouTube, Ecom Hannah. A lot of times, I get comments. So I get Taylor comments. They think I'm you sometimes. So another brown-haired girl, Ecom Hannah, different name, but yeah.
That's so funny. No, I get comments like that too, with different names and things all the time. I just go with it, you know.
Yep.
You call
Yeah.
me whatever you want.
I don't care. It's fine. Taylor's great. You can call me Taylor. I'll be
That's
Taylor.
funny. Well,
Awesome.
thank you again so much. Everybody definitely go check out Hannah's channel if you haven't done so already. You probably already are over there and subscribe. She has amazing, amazing content. Thank you again, Hannah, and
Thank you so
everybody
much.
watching. Hope you got value out of it. Be sure to boop the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave your taco emoji in the comments and see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.